Hey guys, how's it going? And welcome back to another episode. In today's episode, we're going to be talking about Mexican secrets that no one is talking about. That's right. As you guys already know, on this channel, we like to talk about a lot of the things that you're not going to hear on other channels when it comes to regarding living in Mexico, moving to Mexico. For you new viewers out there, not only do we talk about these things, but we also like to drive around. Maybe in the car or on a bicycle. Sometimes I walk around. Sometimes I just sit in front of my computer and I talk to you guys about a lot of these issues and answer a lot of your questions about, everything that is living in Mexico. For you guys that, again, are new here, have never seen any of this content, I really hope you guys enjoy it and like to stick around as we discuss, what are some of the things about Mexico that just the average person out there doesn't know about. The first thing that I came across when I came to Mexico was the fact that Mexico is very Americanized. There's a lot of things about Mexico that are very similar to how they are in the USA. In fact, you would think that, Mexico is, bordering the, USA. Oh, wait a minute. It is bordering the USA.
Bruh.
So if you already know that American culture is exported to the rest of the world, well, imagine, how it would be to its neighbor. You already know how similar Canada might be to the U.S. Well, same thing with Mexico. Sure, Mexico is uniquely Mexico and uniquely its own thing, but they love a lot of things that come from America, come from the USA. In fact, many Mexicans consider themselves Americans. Many Mexicans say, hey, wait a minute, we are the United States of Mexico. You guys are the United States of America. And so, and they like to, point that out multiple times, to you. And a lot of times you'll see it in the comments. But they're all right. Remember, we're all living in the Americas. Okay. A lot of times when you are in another country like Mexico and you say you are American, well, they say, well, so are we. Sure. Mexico is in North America, just like Canada and the USA. But, it's all the Americas, whether it's Central America or South America or just all the Americas. And so with that being said, since Mexico is so close to the USA, well, guess what? It's going to, be very closely related on many things. So, for example, the closer you are to the U.S. border, the more likely the Mexicans are going to speak English. The more, you are in a touristy area, let's say like the Cancuns of the world or in just touristy areas, all around Mexico, you're going to find, again, a lot of English-speaking Mexicans. And, they teach it just like you learn Spanish in high school in the USA, where they learn English in high school out here. But, again, a lot of them actually learn it simply because of the culture. They want to, again, understand movies and popular culture and, music and so much more. And so there's a huge cultural exchange. And, again, as you guys can see from me driving around, whether it's in this video or in other videos, it's pretty Americanized. They got highways, they got Walmarts, they got Starbucks, they got McDonald's, Burger King, KFC. They got it all. They got every single thing and then some. In fact, you're going to see, Americanized versions of Mexican things. And it's going to be, very, very, for a lot of people, a welcome surprise. I know for me, when I first came to Mexico, I just thought it was Mexico because, I just kind of landed here and I landed in a Mexican neighborhood outside of the center of the city. But eventually, once I started making my way around the city, I quickly found out, oh, wait a minute. The city is, part of the city is just like the USA. And they got everything. If I want to go to Home Depot, I can go to Home Depot and so on and so forth. And they got car dealerships. They got everything. Like I said, whether you see it in my videos or, you see it in other people's videos that drive around Mexico or show you the real Mexico, it's basically the same as in the USA. Now, one thing you are going to see that's very different than the USA, and this is where a lot of people out there get confused, with Mexico and think that Mexico is very poor, is the fact that, Mexico and Europe are very similar in many things. If you are European and you come to Mexico, there's not much of a change in many aspects as to how you are used to living your life. The way you live your life and on a daily basis in Europe is really similar to how people live in Mexico and in many parts of the world. But when you are coming from the USA or even Canada, you come to, Mexico for the first time, or you come to Mexico and all of a sudden, things are, they seem, third world country. When you hear things like, oh, you can't flush toilet paper down the toilet in many places. Well, again, you know what I mean? Like, that's how it is in many parts of the world. And I could go on and on. There's so many things like that. And, it comes to the topic of something that I like to talk about a lot here on this channel, in which, freedom and comfort are not the same thing. And so many people out there are constantly always confusing freedom and comfort. And so the reality is that, Mexico, again, we've talked about this multiple times in the show, Mexico is very safe. You know what I mean? There's a big misconception out there as to, how dangerous Mexico is. But the reality is that Mexico's safe, not just, not only do I prove it with my videos and, me showing you how life is out here, but so many other YouTubers out there do the same thing. So it's relatively safe, for the most part. Again, most people are always, trying to combat that misinformation that so many have heard for so many years as to Mexico being extremely dangerous. Now, again, caveat, yeah, Mexico is dangerous and there are dangerous things about it and there are dangerous areas, in Mexico, but for the most part, it's extremely safe, very safe, a lot safer than the USA, for example. And so, coming on to what I was saying about, people confusing, freedom, with comfort, the reality is that, people confuse freedom with danger. So that's what I was trying to get at here, where, a lot of people just think that, oh my God, Mexico is very dangerous because there's a lot of freedom there, where people just do whatever they want, where there's a lot of anarchy and it's just the wild, wild west in many places, in many cases, in most of the country. And so for a lot of people that love freedom and know exactly what freedom entails, well, I mean, Mexico is paradise. You can basically kind of like live your life out here and do your thing and not worry about many things. But for a lot of people out there that, again, their main concern is more safety, comfort than anything else, that's where, they think and will always think that Mexico is very dangerous. And I'm not just talking about like, cartel violence or anything like that. No, I mean, just dangerous, for example, you might be walking up some stairs and there's no railing and you could just fall down the stairs. In fact, you might be on a balcony or on a roof or in whatever, and there's no balcony, or you're leaning on the balcony and all of a sudden you're seeing it's very loose and you could fall. Like I said, the streets, the walkways, they're very dangerous. They're, again, whether they're very steep elevations or there's a lot of cracks or, they're potholes or what have you, they're dangerous. I could go on and on. You know what I mean? Like I said, you go to a typical Mexican house and you're going to see electrical wires, all over the place. In fact, you can see one right behind me right there, and they're exposed and they're not behind the wall and there's not an inspector coming in for every little light bulb that you have to change in your house. So again, for example, I'll have family members of mine come visit me out here and they are constantly having heart attacks because of all the again, exposed wiring, for example, like that. It's like, oh my God, what if a kid grabs that and touches it and they get electrocuted? They're not. Why would they? Bruh. Anyways, I could go on and on, you know what I mean? Or, perhaps, again, exposed wiring or plumbing outside of the house, again, to save money. The whole idea of, that, you know what I mean? Like so many things. I could go on and on, where, a lot of people consider all these dangers, again, the lack of infrastructure, the lack of all these things, they associate all that stuff with danger, with the fact that Mexico's a third world country, and I can go on and on. But the reality is that that's not the case at all. I've shown you multiple times where, I've shown you, people's homes that live in, part of the, parts of the north or other parts of the city where they're, very new developments, new homes, expensive homes, modern homes, and they look exactly like the USA or whatever you're used to over there. And it's exactly all the comforts that you could ever want. But again, that comes at a cost. That's why when a lot of people come to Mexico, all right, they get confused very quickly because they want to live exactly like they lived in the USA, only to quickly realize, oh, wait a minute, it's going to cost me exactly the same as the USA in many cases. Not always, sometimes it's going to be just a little cheaper. But if all of a sudden you want to live like Jose, well then, you're probably going to be living in a barn with a horse. Bruh. Now, again, I know I'm being facetious here, what have you. I don't live in an actual barn with a horse. But again, I got family members of mine that come from their fancy houses in the USA, and they are, basically looking at me like I am living in a barn with a horse. But I'm not. I'm just living in a very humble, 2-bedroom, a house. That's it. It's a simple 2-bedroom, 1-bath, with a yard so I can have a garden. I got wires exposed, just like every other typical Mexican, so on and so forth. And that's why my costs are so down, because I live like a Mexican. Meaning, I don't care, what, anyone thinks about my decor, outside of the house. You know what I mean? Like if, for example, the paint on my house, or the paint on the fence, in the front of my house isn't perfect. Well, that's okay, because instead of hiring a painter, I just painted it myself, and it doesn't look perfect, but it looks perfect enough for me and my wife, and that's it. And it doesn't really matter, And again, if you want to make it look perfect, you can spend the money to do it. And again, the freedom that comes with that, the freedom that you can do whatever you want, and you can go to most neighborhoods out here, and it doesn't matter where they're at, and everyone is doing their own thing. And there's no like housing authority, there's no neighbors association, there's none of that stuff. And so since Mexico is very free, it can be considered dangerous to many. Or, again, the whole idea of freedom and comfort. And again, people confuse comfort with being poor. And so, again, just going with all that, because, again, in my neighborhood, there's people that, have a similar house to mine, but there's people that, just live in the same block or in the same area, and they have built a mega mansion, with all the comforts and then some, probably more comforts than what you have in the USA right now. And so, and they live in the same neighborhood, but they want to live in this neighborhood. Why? Because of all the comforts that I have from living in this neighborhood. They want them too, meaning they got a park, they got multiple fruit vendors, multiple meat, butchers, meat vendors, multiple little tienditas, little, corner stores, liquor stores, beer stores, Oxxos, which are the 7-Elevens, and I can go on, and everything's within walking distance. It's a safe neighborhood. The kids are out playing. There's old people also living in the neighborhood. Everyone's interacting. It's very friendly. And so, again, someone doesn't want to leave this neighborhood. Maybe they were born and raised here, or maybe like me, I landed here and I love it. Well, guess what? I can afford it. Well, I'll just, build whatever I want on the land. There's no zoning that's going to tell me, like I can't do X, Y, or Z. Sure, we've talked about it before. We've had experts on the show that, yes, there are rules and regulations. There are, if you're going to build a house, out of nothing, there are going to be inspectors that come in and all this other stuff. But for the most part, it's just for your safety. They want to make sure, the thing doesn't crumble on top of your head. But other than that, it's not, what you're used to, where there's, a lot of over regulation. In the USA, in Canada, a lot of people are just so used to being over-regulated to death, where it's like you can't even screw on a light bulb, without having 13 inspectors come and check that out, and probably getting denied. And you can't even change a light bulb. And I know I'm over-exaggerating here, but I'm not that far off. Again, in many places you can't even have a gas stove anymore. As you guys saw, I've probably already seen in the show, I was at a gas station, I was filling up my gas tank, so that I can cook at home. I ran out. Okay. So, I think you already saw, that, it's not ever going to be banned out here, because, out here, things might be anarchy, but guess what? At least people are here living in reality. And that's the thing too, again, people, that live in reality, unfortunately or fortunately, however you want to look at it, they have to live, with the fact that, it's reality is uncomfortable. And since life in Mexico is considered uncomfortable or inconvenient to, many people out there, they associate that with being poor. But that's not it at all. I mean, if I wanted for a little more money, I could have, the gas guy come to my house and fill up my gas tank, or even replace my gas tank and just give me a new gas tank every time. Or I could save the ultimate amount of money and just go get it myself, like I did there, and that's it. You know what I mean? Like I said, everything, basically how it works is like the more comfort you want, the more it's going to cost you financially. It's going to cost you something, but it's definitely going to cost you financially. And just, many people just don't understand that freedom comes at a cost as well. And so, the freedom, the cost for me, is that I have to spend my time. The cost of my freedom, the cost of me not having to spend that money, is that I have to go get it. But again, the beautiful thing about Mexico is you have all the options in the world to decide and do, whatever you want. Which again, it's something that's like kind of like a new and weird concept to a lot of people, especially that come from the USA, Canada, what have you, where it's not like that at all. Things are just very, it's these are the rules. This is the way you got to do it. There's no, wiggle room, none of that. It's nothing like that here. Again, out here, I was driving around with a friend of mine that basically this friend of mine, he had an expired license, okay? And, sure enough, we were driving around and we get pulled over by the police. And basically he wasn't wearing his seatbelt. And, he was kind of freaking out a little bit, about the fact that, he didn't have a valid driver's license because he was driving with an expired California driver's license out here. And so he was just thinking, oh my God, I'm going to get in trouble, whatever. But I told him, look, don't worry, man. I'm in the car with you. I got a license. Worst case scenario, the cop is kind of an ass. The worst that he can do is force you to get out of the car and get in the passenger seat and then have me drive the car wherever. And that's it, because, I got the valid license and you don't. And so long story short, the cop, basically asked him for his license and registration, not insurance. You don't give a crap. So he just asked him for those two things. He went and gave him a ticket for not wearing his seatbelt, and that's it. The end. And he used his expired California's license. Not once was that ever even brought up in the conversation. In fact, the police officer was just more concerned with the safety of just wear your seatbelt, bro. Bruh. Which, by the way, I agree. I didn't get no ticket because I was wearing my seatbelt. But hey, it's Mexico. I'm not gonna, you do you, man. Whatever. I'm not a guy to tell people what to do. And that's another thing about Mexico. The same thing. Very rarely, you're gonna come across a situation like that where you're gonna be told what to do, or anyone's gonna tell you what to do. In fact, the people out here, they mind their business and they do them. You know what I mean? They're not trying to get involved in your life or your issues or tell you what to do or how to live your life or none of that at all. And so, but just going back to the whole cop interaction, I've mentioned this before and I made episodes on this before, where police interactions out here are safe. Always. Sure, in that situation, my friend, he was not given the option by the police officer if he wanted to pay a bribe or just pay for the ticket there. He was, I live in Merida, Yucatan. The police out here, they're a little bit more straight and narrow, so meaning, what is it like, they follow the law, they do their job. So with that being said, he actually just got a ticket and that's it, but it wasn't a problem, Like he never told them, hey, your license expired. Hey, you got to renew your license. Hey, you whatever. You know what I mean? Because my friend was, he was just saying, look, my seatbelt, I didn't have it on because it's not working. Basically, you see, look, it's like I just got to kind of put it on because it's not really clicking or working or what have you. And the cop didn't even say anything about that. He's like, bro, at the very least, pretend to have it on. But anyways, so long story short, you know what I mean? The police interactions out here, again, you'll have, situation A where the cop is just trying to shake you down, hey, you don't wear your seatbelt. You give me 500 pesos and you can get out of here scot-free. Or, the other thing where it's going to be a good cop and he's just going to give you a ticket, and that's it. But that's it. It's just, it's nothing like in the USA where, something like that where, both of us are getting dragged out of the car and, beaten until morale improves, all right? To say the least. But anyway, so that's another thing too out here, and it's very positive in that sense. You know what I mean? It's a lot safer. Like in general. That's one of the things that makes it safer. So many other things. The gun violence out here is not an issue really. So many other things that make it very, very safe, and a lot of people don't know that. A lot of people just think it's not safe at all. Again, because they confuse safety, with what we were talking about earlier with, again, freedom and danger and all that other stuff. But, for anyone out there, most of you guys out there that all you guys want is freedom, that's all you're yearning for these days is freedom, freedom, freedom. Yeah, you know what I mean? It's out here. It's gonna come at a cost, but most of you guys are more than happy to pay that for that cost for freedom. In fact, you don't even think of it as anything but. And the thing is that in order for that to happen, it's like out here, the reason that most people are very free is because they're not reliant on the government. They're not reliant on the police. They're not reliant on any entity out there. They're only reliant on themselves, because no other entity out there is going to come and save the day or really do anything to help them in any way possible. In fact, they're used to, they're getting screwed by the government, the corporations, the power company, the water company, all these things. So they just, again, take matters into their own hands, and that's it. And most of the time, the Constitution is always, backing them up, and that's it. But anyways, they still do whatever they got to do to survive. And so that's the thing, for many people out there, they're not used to that. They're used to complaining all the time. They're used to, having to call somebody, getting it fixed, call the government. Hey, daddy government, come and save the day. Hey, can you send the police? Hey, can you send help? I can't do anything on my own. Help me now. You know what I mean? So a lot of people are used to that. And so obviously they come to Mexico, they don't like it. But the reality is, again, if the less, you want the police in your life, the less you want the government in your life, the less you want any of these entities, corporations, whatever in your life, the more you're going to love Mexico, because Mexico, again, they don't comply as much. You know what I mean? They're not as, they're not as much on the grid as the rest of society out there. Most Mexicans are off the grid by choice. And, a lot of times, they get, I remember, back during the vaccine era, a few years ago, that, my handyman, that went to go get his, basically he was more worried. He was more worried about them asking him for all this information, like his name, his address, his phone number, and all this other information that most of us out there give away for free all the time. But anyways, he was more concerned about that, his violation of his privacy, than he was about whatever the hell was in that thing. He wasn't even worried about that or concerned at all. You know what I mean? So just to get an idea as to, how things are in Mexico, they're very different. A lot of people out here, they understand their rights. They understand that they cannot be violated. And if they are violated, that they do have, ways to combat it. On top of that, they also know that the government is very inefficient. They're not really, there to trample their rights, per se. They just, just stay out of the way and you'll be fine. And it's just a different kind of world out here. And so, again, most people don't know that. A lot of people that I talk to are constantly in fear as to, oh my God, I got to get my immigration papers. Oh my God, I got to get this. Oh my God, I got to get my RFC, my this, my that. I got to get all these things. I got to be compliant. What are the rules? Can I, there's not enough rules to comply and all this other stuff. And they're worried because they just don't understand that Mexico is like, again, you can literally, drive around with an expired license if you want. You know what I mean? I don't recommend it. I got my own license, and things like that. But again, it's not a thing. You know what I mean? It not just that, but so many other aspects to life out here. You know what I mean? Where people just don't rely so much on all these other entities out there like you would where you come from. And so that also gives all these people so much more freedom because they're not dependent on the government or the bank or the corporation or what have you. You know what I mean? They just, again, they do what they got to do in order to survive and move ahead. Now, another thing that a lot of people just don't know about Mexico is, how healthy it is to live out here. Just the fact that, most Mexicans have access to healthcare. It doesn't matter how poor you are, you have access to healthcare. You can see a doctor for as little as $3 US. And, medicine is, again, Sometimes it's the most expensive part of the situation, but out here they got so many pharmacies, and some pharmacies that are literally geared and catered towards the poor individuals out there, to make sure that they can get their medicine no matter what their financial situation is. So healthcare is available to everyone out here. So when you come out here, with with your situations, from your country, you have access to healthcare immediately. And even if you're going to go see a super duper heart specialist doctor, or whatever specialist, knee specialist, whatever it is you're going to go look at there, it's going to cost you like $50-$60. For a lot of you guys out there, that's like a down payment. I mean, sorry, a co-payment, for just to go see them. You got to pay that and then some, and your insurance and this. But out here, it's like you can see the best of the best of the best for $50-$60. Or $3, or everything in between. And that's just doctors. Again, medicine is readily available. You can get a lot of really, really, really powerful natural medicines for pennies, and so on and so forth. And forget the medicine. Besides the fact that you have access to a lot more better healthcare, and just tons of healthcare in general all over the place, plus organic options, holistic options, every single option under the book. Besides all that, again, the food is a lot healthier out here, because again, the laws are very different. The laws in Mexico, they're very strict when it comes to what you can put in the food when you're growing it, and so on and so forth. In the USA, a lot of people are unfortunately used to, the food having, all these chemicals and hormones and, everything under the sun. But out here, it's not like that at all. It's very different and very organic. For example, one thing that I notice, all the time, is that whenever I'm cutting an apple, or I cut a potato out here, I can just cut a potato into squares and leave it out, and it doesn't brown. I can cut up an apple and it doesn't brown at all. It browns eventually, after 12 hours, and it's a little bit, just kind of drying out, if anything. But it's very, very, very different. Where in the USA, I just always thought that was a natural thing with vegetables, where you cut a potato and you got to immediately put in water, or you got to cut an apple, you got to immediately put some lime juice or whatever, for it to not oxidize and turn brown. Which I just thought it was a natural thing. And then out here, these things never do that. And but then, for example, I'll buy carrots, and, I got to make sure I keep them in a special container in the fridge and stuff like that, because otherwise they'll wilt immediately. They won't stay, rock hard, like David Goggins out there. You know what I mean? So, you got to do all these other things, and, food spoils a lot quicker. All kinds of things, whether it's bread, or, tomatoes and all these other things, they just spoil a lot quicker, because again, they don't have all of these, chemicals, or they're not genetically modified, or any of these things like they are back where you're from. Same thing with let's say chickens, or other kinds of meats. Again, a chicken out here is small. It's just like a regular chicken. It's not like these gargantuan monster chickens that you're used to, getting from, back home in the USA. In fact, sometimes you'll order something like 6 wings, and you'll get six, literally tiny little things like that. It's like, what the heck? It's like, well, the real wings from real chickens, anyways. So I can go on and on, but again, it's beneficial, in the sense that okay, you got smaller wings and smaller breastises, from the chickens, but hey, guess what? At the end of the day, it's a lot healthier. How that chicken was actually raised, and it's, more organic, healthier, again, free range, whatever, all these things are already they don't got to advertise these things, they're just already there, Now, I know that they do have some sort of, small, factory farming out here, and factory agriculture, but again, they have all these very strict laws and rules and regulations that they got to follow. And again, a lot of the population doesn't even buy from these, places. They buy from the local farmer, local growers, local butchers that has their own animals that they grow, and so on and so forth. And again, you have all those options as well once you're out here, and immediately you're going to see, the change. For example, look, I'm actually a lot healthier. I've lost weight, so many things as I've been here, but recently, I haven't been feeling perfect. And the reality is that I've just been eating a lot of sugar. And guess what? The food out here is so much healthier and better for you that even when you're consuming a lot of bad things like sugar, it's like it doesn't affect your body exactly the same. I just know I've been eating too much sugar. And on top of that, you know what I mean? Like I know that I'm not feeling as much high energy as I used to be. And I just put and two together and it's like, Jesus, you know, but it's like you really don't even notice as much as you do in the US, where in the US you notice immediately because you balloon, you know, into like a giant balloon. And so you're just, you know, I used to weigh close to 300 pounds, like 280 plus. And, you know, right now, I mean, you know, I've been in Mexico and I eat so much now and I eat so many carbs, especially lately. And I can't even crack 215. Okay. And I'm overweight. I'm definitely overweight. You guys see me. I'm fat. Okay. But compared to what I used to be, no. And is it where I want to be? No. What do I got to do? Put in that work, and I will, you know what I mean? But at the end of the day, it's like, you know, if anything, that's again part of the dangers out here is that there's so much good food. Yeah, you're gonna have a lot of you know, options, you know, really, really good options. You know, if you want to go on a keto diet, great. You know, you have all the options in the world. If you want to go straight vegetarian, same. And a vegan, again, all the vegetables you could eat, all the fruit you could eat. But yeah, you know what I mean? Like even if you want to have a vegan diet, you know, filled with chicken nuggets, you can have that out here. Sorry, I just had to throw that in. But long story short, all I'm saying is that, you know, even with all that, you know what I mean? You got to be careful because, you know, there's so many other good options out there that, you know, it will take you off your diet, you know what I mean? And, you know, these things are things like, you know, a lot of the sweets that they have in Mexico all over the place. They love sweets. They love Coca-Cola. They love chocolate. They love all the bad stuff, okay? But again, you know, going back to, you know, Mexico, you know, let's just, you know, another thing a lot of people kind of know but don't know, but they should know, is that Mexico is one of the happiest countries on earth, even though they're some of the hardest working on earth and they deal with some of the harshest conditions with life, you know, on earth. You know, it's just the fact that things are difficult and all these other things. Again, the ultimate freedom, right? But long story short, at the end of the day, what I was saying with all that, you know, was the fact that, like, you know, Mexicans are some of the happiest people on earth. And it has a lot to do with the fact that they love life. They celebrate life. And part of that life celebration is they love to eat. And the food in Mexico is incredible. I think most people know that already. But, well, you know, obviously the Mexicans are constantly eating it. So in many cases, you know, you are going to see, you know, unhealthy Mexicans, but it's only because, you know, of, you know, again, they're addicted to food. You know, that's like a thing, but it's part of the happiness. But, you know, for most people, they can, you know, they got to kind of under control. As you guys can see, again, once you're in Mexico, most people, you know, you're going to see, of course, you're going to see all kinds of people, but, you know, most people in Mexico are a lot healthier than they are in the USA. And it's because of the lifestyle. It's because even though they might be eating a lot of junk food, it's not as bad as you might have in the USA. And even if they have a lot of junk food, they still supplement that with a lot of organic food that is just readily available everywhere. It's not like in the US where you got to go to special markets and spend a lot of money in order to get yourself, you know, some organic food. Out here, it's just there. It's there, literally in the tree. You can walk around the neighborhood and just pick it off neighbors' trees. They're not going to mind. Especially if the tree is, you know, going out of the property. So, you know, it's a lot of things like that. You know, a lot of people just don't know about Mexico. And, you know, not only are they happy, but why are they happy? You know, the fact that, you know, again, they don't take life too seriously. You know, they care more about, you know, quality of life. They care more about, you know, the fact that, hey, I want to go and have a big party with my family and my friends, and I'm going to work as hard as I can in order to make that happen, in order to put my kids through school, in order to do whatever it is I got to do. You know, they take a lot of pride in what they do, in their work, in their life, in their country, and in everything. And so they're very prideful. They're very, you know, just amazing people, very happy people. And, you know, it's really infectious. You know, once you're out here, you quickly get infected by the happy Mexican, you know, disease. And by the way, the ones that don't, you know, those are the ones that are really, really miserable out here. And, you know, they themselves leave on their own because, you know, the Mexicans are never going to change. And just because you're miserable, that's your problem. You know what I mean? The Mexicans still going to live their life and you're not going to ruin it. And if you try to ruin it, man, you know, now you got some problems, right? So, you know, there's just so many things, you know, like I said, you know, that are about Mexico that most people just don't know. And, you know, I'm just trying to cover as many as I can in today's video and on this channel. But again, you know what I mean? If this video is not, you know, inconclusive enough, you know, with how, you know, awesome Mexico is, well, you guys can please check out the rest of my channel where I talk about even more things like this, okay? Where there's a lot of things about Mexico that just people just don't know. And I don't like to just sit here and talk about them. Like, again, if you're watching this video, I like to show you, whether I take you on a drive, throughout, the city, or I go on a bike ride, or I take my camera and we walk around certain neighborhoods. You should check out the rest of my channel so you can see all the things that I do. Again, I do interviews with locals. I do interviews with a lot of you guys that have moved out here. And I show you, whether it's their business or their homes and everything in between. And again, I like to show you, what real life is out here in Mexico. I mean, that's all I really try to do in this channel. When I do live streams like I do every single Thursday, again, I do things like I'll have a lawyer on, a real expert to tell you about all the things about immigration. So you don't just have to take my word for it about, again, how easy it is to actually immigrate here. No, you can hear it from a lawyer. Same thing with things with real estate, and same thing with so many other things. I try to have people that actually know what they're talking about on the show. On top of that, again, I literally give you all the tools humanly possible so that you can do a lot of the work and research yourself, so you don't have to take my word for it or anyone else on the internet's word for it, and you don't have to pay all these expensive courses or prices or things for things that you can probably just get for free on my channel, or for just doing a little research online. But a lot of you guys don't even know how to do that research. So again, that's the things that I try to show you on my channel, and again, I try to emphasize them. Again, the more you do, the more freedom you're going to have, and the better you're going to feel about making this huge decision on, again, moving to Mexico or wherever you're moving to. But the reality is that on my channel, on my website especially, I try to just, put all those resources together, because again, on my channel, there's a lot of things just kind of all over the place, and so it's kind of like a little bit more difficult since I have a lot of videos. But on the channel, on the website, I try to kind of put everything there. And again, on Thursdays, we do live streams where I answer your questions. On Sundays, I drop a video like today, like the thing that you're watching out right now. And throughout the week, sometimes I'll drop little nuggets here and there. But at the end of the day, I try to make this a community thing. And I really, really appreciate you guys. I really love you guys very much. You guys have no idea, how much, I'm proud of everything we've built here as a community. Because I feel like it's very different than all the other things that you're going to find out there online about living in Mexico or whatever. And, I really appreciate you guys, not just coming together out here, to, spread the word, let other people know, about all these things, that I talk about on my channel, but also, the fact that, again, we're all doing it together. We're all helping each other out here together. And it's a community effort. You guys leave comments down below, you guys help people in the comments, same thing as in the the Facebook group that we have, or even the Discord group that I feel a lot of you guys want me to reopen again. All the links are down below. You can always ask me for the links. You can send me emails, write to me down below, and so on and so forth. And again, if you want to, let's say you want to like talk to me, you want to do a one-on-one consultation, you want to know more, you want to have a conversation with me and find out really the real nitty-gritty. In fact, ask me questions that you probably can't ask or have me answer online. Again, you can just book a one-on-one consultation. I try to make it as economic as possible. And again, for those of you guys that can't pay that, that's fine. That's why I give all the information out for free. Again, all I'm doing when you're paying me for my time is just making your search and everything a lot easier. Okay, you're basically, again, just like we were talking about freedom and comfort and all this other stuff. Right now, all I'm doing is just helping you guys out and making it a quicker, easier transition, so that you guys can get out of Dodge as quickly as possible, because I know things are just only deteriorating more and more each and every day. And options are running thin. So it's time to really start figuring out what you're gonna do and make things happen. So with all that being said, all right, I want to give a big shout out to all my members out there, all my patrons out there, all the new sponsors I got. I want to give a shout out to everyone out there. Wow, the channel has grown so much in just this last year alone, and it's only going to continue growing. And it's all because of you guys, and I really appreciate you guys. And yeah, you already know what to do, guys. If you love this kind of content and you want to see more of it, don't forget to please like, please share, please hit that bell icon. But more importantly than anything else, please stay awesome. Thanks again for everything. Love you guys, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye, guys.